Hi everyone. The question says consider two vectors a equals 3i hat minus j hat, b equals negative i hat minus 2j hat. If you recall, we said that oftentimes vectors are given by their magnitude and their angle. So here we go, we have some vector a. The magnitude is given by the length of the vector, and here we go, this is the angle. And sometimes the same vector will be given by its components. So the component means projection of the vector along the horizontal line, a sub x, and projection of the same vector along the vertical line, a sub y. Why do we do this? Because the vector itself is two-dimensional. If the vector is two-dimensional, it has some displacement, right, along the x, and it has some displacement along the y. You get the idea? Good. Now in this question, we are given the components 3i hat minus j hat. What does that mean? Vector A has an x component and a y component. The x component is 3 units to the right, and the y component is -1 units. You get the idea? Then vector B has an x component of -1 and a y component of -2. These symbols, I hat and j hat, you have to keep them because they're guiding you. They're telling you the horizontal components, I hat, and the j hat is a symbol representing the vertical components. So far, so good? Good. Now, if you read the question is asking you, part A, calculate A plus B. How can you calculate A plus B? You write down the given information, everyone. A plus B, since we are given the components, you just take each component and you sum them up. We have the x components, you just sum up the x components. 3 plus -1 will give you 2. Then you take the vertical components and you also combine them. You basically sum them up. Negative j hat means we have -1 j hat plus -2 j hat. What's -1 plus -2? That's going to give you -3. Right? You are just summing up the horizontal components. You are summing up the vertical components. When you insert your answers, you have 2i hat, -3 j hat. So you put down +2 and -3 because the I hat and the j hat are already there because it's impossible for you to type them up using your keyboards. Moving on, we have the vectors a minus b. You're doing the same operation. This time you are subtracting the two vectors. There's a negative sign as opposed to positive sign. You take 3i hat minus -1 j hat. The negative has to be distributed. So you have 3 minus -1. That's going to give you 3 plus 1. That's going to give you 4. -1 minus -2. -1 plus 2 is going to give you +1. So you keep it. What do you plug in? You plug in the 4. Then you plug in the 1. Right? Moving on to part C. Calculate the magnitude of A plus B. This symbol here means the magnitude, the length. What that really means is you are getting back to the vector itself. Did you understand what I mean? So let me just tell you what's going on here. Remember, we already found A plus B. We already found A plus B. What was the answer? 2i hat minus 3 j hat. This is A plus B. Now we want to find the magnitude. Magnitude means what? You want to find the vector itself. You have 2i hat, one component, and then you have -3 j hat. You want to find the vector itself. This is what we mean when we say the length A plus B. You are basically getting back to the vector itself. using its components. And how do you do that? You do that by using the Pythagorean theorem. You take each component, you square that, then you take the square root. And you're going to get your answer. Moving on to part D, the same idea. You're going to find the magnitude of the vector a minus b. Where is a minus b? Right here. 4i hat plus 1j hat. 4i hat plus 1j hat. You are given the components. How do you find the vector itself? 4i hat squared plus j hat squared. I just want to remind you something. There's an I hat here that needs to be squared, and there's a j hat here that needs to be squared. We define I hat squared to be 1. We define j hat squared to be 1 as well. And in the third dimension, if you were to have k hat represents the z direction. If you were to square that, we would also get 1. This is what we define. This is definition. This way, you are eliminating the confusion of what happens to j hat square or I hat square or k hat square. Take the Pythagorean theorem, you get the magnitude of the vector. You just find yourself the magnitudes of the vectors. How do you find the direction, everybody? How do you find the direction of a plus b and a minus b? Remember, you already solved a plus b. What was a plus b equal to? A plus b was equal to 2i hat minus 3j hat. You know the horizontal component and you know the vertical component. How do you find the angle? You take the arctangent of the vertical component divided by the horizontal component. And a minus b direction, where is a minus b? A minus b, you have here 4 I hat plus 1 j hat, right? How do you find the angle? You take the horizontal component divided by the vertical component, then you take arctangent of that. Are you with me so far? Everything looks good. Our answers are consistent with the solution, right? So everything is checked. We're good. We can move on.